Hello friends and welcome to the Boot Room, the show where we look ahead to Ipswich Town's weekend game. Charlton Athletic away this weekend. Someone else is away is both Stewie and Andy, so I'm afraid you've got myself, Mark Heath and Ross Halls to break this game down. We'll do our best. Ross, we've switched roles from Monday. I'm the host, you are now the pundit, so I look forward very much to your punditry and analysis. As I said, Charlton away, it is tomorrow. A chance for Town to make it 3 wins on the bounce again. Second straight away game. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, 3 runs on a bounce, which was hard under Paul Cook, Paul Lambert in League One, but McKenna has shown he can do that, and yeah, can we do it again? But London away games, you always look forward to it. It's always gonna be a packed out away end, and it's always a packed out away end wherever we are in the north, down south somewhere. But London away days, they just feel a bit special, don't they? But Charlton, last time we played them, 2 different road, different results. The game at the Valley, and then of course the end of the season winning 4-0. So very different results. But yeah, looking forward to this one, my friend.
We have to discuss the last time Town were at the Valley last season, because it was probably the lowest, if not, one of the lowest points of the season. Just after Paul Cook had been sacked, Town were absolutely dreadful in a 2-0 defeat. There was angry scenes between players and fans at the end. Toto and Ciara, of course, confronting fans. You were there, Ross. Just how bad was that now, reflecting on that?
It does feel like a lifetime ago, because so much has changed, of course. Especially, of course, McKenna getting pointed, but that was a really bad night. Under lights at the Valley, John McGrew in charge, and I just didn't think we could ever get any lower, but we did. Players, fans fighting amongst themselves, very toxic atmosphere. Charlton took the lead, and then it's just a very disjointed performance. I felt sorry for Cameron Humphreys. He got all his praise midweek against Port Vale, but that was his league debut for us at the Valley, and just chucking on a kid in that sort of environment probably wasn't great for him. But yeah, it was a bad atmosphere. He got some great content, on game day. Good old Bloomers did a big rant. He was not happy, but he just felt this football club. What's happening to it? After that, because that was just a toxic atmosphere. But thankfully, a lot has changed since then. But yeah, we'll always go back to that and go, that was a sliding doors moment, because that was just one bad game.
Yeah, hopefully Bloomers will be happier after the game tomorrow. He almost spontaneously combusted, didn't he, after that game?
Yeah.
It was brilliant viewing. If I'd have said to you then, Ross, just after you'd watched that and you'd done those videos, that in less than a year we'd be coming back with Town second in the table, with a huge gap being grown to 7th place, everything looking really good, would you have believed me, or would you said I've been on the old source?
Probably, yeah, the latter, really, because I think at that stage as well, I think that's when I made that famous "the season's dead" sort of period, because I think it was after the Barrow embarrassment as well. Of course, that was John McGrill's last game in his caretaker, and of course McKenna came in after that, and I just thought, he's got a big job McKenna's got on his hands. But ever since his debut game, he's been up, and unbelievable stuff. So yeah, as I said, it feels like a lifetime ago, because a lot's happened. Of course, a lot of those players who played in that game at Charlton at the Valley last year they're not here anymore. Toto playing that game, Scott Fraser, we'll get onto him later. But a lot of players have also stepped up. Moores is stepped up from there. Of course, Walton, who played in that game, he was unreal. It could have been more than 2 if it wasn't for Walton, so then he'd make some good saves. But a lot of players have stepped up since then. And I remember the big chant was saying, you're not fit to wear the shirt. That was one of the main chants. But I'm sure a lot of fans are now saying you are fit to wear the shirt, because they have been fantastic.
Which brings us perfectly on, Ross, to who's going to be wearing the shirt for Town tomorrow, the starting 11. The big question, I guess, really is midfield. We know Sam Morsey's going to come back after that 1-game suspension. Lee Evans, though, will be out for a few weeks with an MCL injury. So let's start there. Who do you think is most likely to replace him? There's two options, really, isn't there? There's Dominic Ball, kind of veteran pedigree guy, and there's Cameron Humphreys, a young, exciting guy, came off a really good debut, full league debut. Kamara is actually currently playing for the under-21, so it's very unlikely he'll be involved tomorrow, at least not from the start. So it's between Ball and Humphreys. Who are you picking there?
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a massive discussion throughout, today, tomorrow morning, just before team news drop. I'm sure, is it going to be Dominic Ball? Is it going to be Humphreys? And some people will go, oh, maybe it's a bit of a shame if Humphrey doesn't start because of the performance he had. But I think for this sort of game, away from home, Morsey, of course, is starting, but Dominic Ball, championship experience. I think Stu said it on the main pod, like, or well, someone said it anyway, that Dominic Ball was signed for this sort of time, you know, championship experience coming in. It is a shame about Evans' injury, but this is an opportunity now for Ball to come in, show his experience, and him and Morsey, that would be a fantastic partnership. And Humphreys, I'm sure, will still have a chance to play at some point. I'm sure he'll be on the bench and maybe bring him on. But yeah, I'm going with Ball just for that extra experience and just, you know, quick turnaround with this game as well. Tuesday, Saturday. Maybe it's a bit too much for Humphreys, but I'm sure he's got a chance to play more because we've got some other big games coming up.
Yeah, you'd think that Ball will get the nod, won't you? How about the rest of the side? There's always a conversation around the top 4 or top 3, whatever you want to call it. McKenna, if he's going to tinker, tends to tinker up the top of the pitch. So before we have your full team, who would you be playing in those top positions at the Valley?
Well, I think you've got to start Ladapo after 2 goals. Once again, you know, Cameron Humphreys stole the headlines because of his performance, but Ladapo did score 2 goals, and you want to keep your striker who's on form starting. So I'll start him. I like Connor Chaplin. I think this is the sort of game he'll like as well. I'm going to start Connor Chaplin. Burns on the right because he's the go-to. And then, yeah, it's out of Edwards or Harness. And I'm going to start Carl Edwards. I think he's now really stepping up. And I think he'll be up for this game. He did sometimes when you look at pre-match interviews, of course, he did pre-match, didn't he, of this game? And that sort of thinks, is he going to start? But sometimes it could be, he's actually not starting. He's just on the bench. But I'm going for Carl Edwards. I think this will be a good game for him to start. So, yeah, that is my front 3, 4, whatever you call it.
I'm 100% in agreement with you, Ross. I'd love to see Edwards get another start. And as you say, you can't drop Ladapo. Strikers are all about confidence, aren't they? And it'd be a shame to see him drop to the bench after scoring 2 midweek. Right then, how about the rest of the team? Should we bring up that flash graphic you've created for us? Reel off the rest of the team, because there's also a bit of a debate around the defence. 2 bad goals really conceded at Port Vale in midweek, and some of the questions we had on the pod this week, and a lot of chat around fans, is it time to bring Richard Keogh into the side, get that kind of extra experience, that leadership role? So talk around that and the rest of your team. Tell us what it is.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I actually did make a little note for this sort of chat, really, and is this an opportunity to bring Richard Keogh in? I know Emerson, he didn't look happy when he was getting substituted on Tuesday night, but I think it's just one of those, Cameron Burgess, of course, is now fit to play, which is just unbelievable with what happened to him, but so fair play to him. But no, I'm going to stick with it, I think, for me. So this is my team in full. Walton, of course, JD, Emerson, Wolfie, Leif Davis, Burns, Morsey, Ball, Edwards, Chaplin, Ladapo. But, I wouldn't be surprised if McKenna goes, bring Keogh in. Just to bring that extra experience, maybe try to get a clean sheet because, we have conceded some sloppy goals as of late. And, it's another debate. Is like, when is it a good time to drop someone or not drop someone? It's just, refresh it. I think that's more, just give someone an opportunity. But, Keogh will be a good replacement for either Emerson or Wolfie. And we've seen that already. Keogh came in for the Morecambe game for Warfordon. And, he's still got the legs, Keogh, just now. But for me, I'll keep with the back 4 that we're used to.
Okay, so that's your starting 11. How about subs? Who do you think can be an impact guy off the bench in this one? Because that's always a big talking point, isn't it? 5 subs you can make this season. It's been huge for Ipswich Town. Who would you like to see coming off the bench and making that impact?
Now, it's another discussion a lot of people can have. Like, sometimes we don't need to make all of our 5 subs because McKenna likes to use it, and I'm sure you want to keep everyone happy. But I think Tyrese John Jules, I think he can have a moment in this game. I think he can come on possibly for, Ladapo or one of those wide area, maybe even Chaplin's role. You've got Caden Jackson as well. Who else, as I said, Cameron Humphreys earlier. I'm sure he'll be disappointed that he may not start, but I think you can have an opportunity to come off the bench and do something in the game. And of course, go back to the Valley where he made his league debut and, try to right some wrongs. But as we know, substitutions, we've got 5 to use. So we can expect one of those to have an impact at some stage if it is 0-0 or if we're losing. Hopefully we're not. Hopefully we're in the lead and just settle down if we are trying to keep that lead.
Hopefully, yeah. Right then, that's Town then, and we'll come back later on to a prediction and key stats. How about Charlton? Because I don't know if it's just me, but they're kind of flying under my radar until I looked at the table and realised they were 8th. They lost 2-0 at home to MK Dons in midweek, which is obviously a bad result. But before that, they'd won 3 on the bounce, and included in there was a 3-0 win against Pompey. So that's a really good victory. What are you expecting from Charlton? I know you've done a Meet the Oppo with a Charlton fan, gave you some really good insights. So what are you expecting from them? And clearly there's a conversation to be had around Scott Fraser, formerly of this parish. what about him and some of the other players you'll be looking out for Charlton?
Yeah, let's start with Scott Fraser because you always when you look at a team you're going to play, you always look at a former player. Ellis Harrison on Tuesday night, and then Scott Fraser, which I was disappointed when he left. I thought he had an opportunity to really do well at Town. It just didn't work out. But last year with Charlton, when he signed in January, he had a few injuries, so he didn't play against us that final day. But he's really shown his quality in League One this year. I think he's played 15 games, 3 goals, got a few assists as well, and he's really becoming the player we all knew he was going to be in League One. So he's definitely going to be a threat. And the Charlton side, they came a bit under the radar for me as well. I completely forgot they thrashed Plymouth 5-1. Plymouth have been unreal this season, but at the Valley, they won 5-1. It was early in the season. I think it's the 3rd game. So a lot of teams, it's still finding out what team's going to be what this season, but that's a big win. They beat Derby as well. They sound like they can beat the big teams. So watch out, ladies and gentlemen. We're one of the big teams. But losing 2-0 on Tuesday night against MK Dons because they had a player sent off, Ryan Ennis. He's one of their centre halves. I think he's not their go-to man centre half, so he's not a big miss, but it's still a red card and that's another defender down. But they were unbeaten at home until Tuesday night, so they've made Valley sort of a fortress of somewhat in terms of getting results, getting wins, getting draws. But they've got some other players. They've got a lot of young players coming through. They didn't spend any money in the summer. They brought a lot of free transfers in. Of course, they've got other players we know of. I said Jaden Stockley scored against us last year. He's a good player. They've got Chuck Sanike. I think he's more of a player that comes off the bench, but he's another big boy who I'm sure will battle up there. And they've also got George Dobson, who is basically Sam Morsey's sort of counterpart in terms of he'll be a similar sort of player. They'll be fighting in the middle. And I think him and Scott Fraser have had a good partnership this year. But I think it'll be one of those good, footballing side. They like possession as well. Ben Garner, a good manager. He's at Swindon prior. So it's going to be a very interesting game. And they play 4-4-2, gone back to the basics. 2 up top. It should be a very interesting game. I'm hoping it's an entertaining game. But you never know when you see 2 good footballing sides take on each other. It could be one of those dull games. It's a chess game, but we'll still see.
Yeah, and Raksaki as well, isn't he? The young winger they've got on loan from Crystal Palace. I'm led to believe he's been really good.
Yeah. He's. I think once again when I spoke to the Oppo Tash, who did a fantastic insight for us, and signing for Crystal Palace, they've got a bit of a rivalry, but he's sounded like he's game by game, he's improving and he's become more of a senior player, not just a young player. And they also had a young player called Miles Leeburn who was scoring a goal for him. And I was looking at their top goal scorer. He's 18 years of age and he's their top goal scorer, but he's out injured. So we don't need to worry about him, ladies and gentlemen. Don't need to worry about him. But there is, they've got a young team there, but they've still got some experience that just carrying the weight as well. So it should be interesting.
Yeah, and you talk about Chuck Sanike, you say he's most likely to come off the bench. So in terms of impact subs for them, he's a tank, isn't he? He's a big boy. So if they need someone to come on and just knock people around for the last 20 minutes or so in search of an equaliser or a winning goal, he's definitely going to be dangerous. Right, that's Charlton then, Roscoe. Should we pause now before I ask you for your prediction, Rostradamus? Pause for some key stats around this game that we can all consume together. Excellent. Lovely key stats there. So we've talked all around the game. We've talked about who's going to play for Town. We've talked about Charlton, who the danger men are. We've looked at key stats. We've talked about last time Town were there. All that's left then, Ross, is what's going to happen on that field at the Valley tomorrow. You're called Rostradamus for a reason, and that's because you usually pick about 4 different results. I'm only joking. Yeah. You're generally very good at predictions. So you give your prediction, and I'll give mine, which will be totally wrong. Roscoe, what's going to happen tomorrow?
Yeah, I made a rule now. I'm only going to say one prediction because I'm going to go, it could be a win, could be a draw. 2 out of the 3 results that can happen. But I'm going to go right out there and go 2-2. Desmond, loads of goals. As I said, Charlton score a lot of goals. They concede goals, and we are doing the same at the moment. And I think we'll continue that thread a little bit further. But yeah, Desmond 2-2. I think I'll be happy with a point. I'll take a point. Because Charlton, they're a good side, coming a bit under the radar, as you said. I know you lost on Tuesday night, but I'm sure they want to bounce back. And I think 2-2 is a good result overall. And I think at the moment we're, if we drop points, I don't think it's a worry, but we just got to hope Plymouth don't win, because then they'll go a bit further ahead of us. But 2-2, I think that's not a negative prediction either. I just think that is a fair prediction.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to say a draw as well. I can see the 2-2, but I'm going to say 1-1 just to be a bit different. And I think, as you say, I think that would be a good result, because there's a danger. I think you go into this game looking at Charlton and they are flying under the radar. Excuse me, knocking the microphone. And people think, well, it's just another win for Town, isn't it? But and also you look at the loss to the MK Dons on Tuesday. I think, well, it should be a win for Town. But form before that, I'm going to say 1-1 would be a good draw. Anything else to mention, Rossi, before we take our leave and get on with our day?
Just another, packed out, away end. I know it's not a surprise anymore, but I'm sure it's gonna be a great atmosphere once again. And hopefully Scott Fraser doesn't score, because normally when former players play each other, I don't know. I don't think it's actually I think Andy did an article about it. It doesn't actually that happen that often. But I think if Scott Fraser gets in a good position, he may go and fly high somewhere. But I'm sure we'll stop him.
That's definitely going to happen now, Rossi. Now you've said it won't.
Sorry,
anyway, whatever
probably
happens, follow it all with us. The boys will all be there. If you go and enjoy the game, and if not, follow it with us. And we will speak to you next time on the next Boot Room.